Oh shit! I gotta interact with YouTube. Sorry. It's been a minute since I did this. I gotta interact with YouTube. No, I want subtitles.
You want to see us in prison?
Yeah, my bias is I do. Yeah, I like to see people that are guilty of things in prison. That's true. Yes, that is correct.
I would have heads on pikes at this moment.
We know one of you guys were screaming it at the J6 march. Trump's people in his group were the ones going to Fox News and telling them.
Now.
Yes, the president of the United States himself was not personally driving a car. He wasn't hopping on people like Sidney Powell, people like Rudy Giuliani.
One day,
unbelievable.
I hope one day
keep hoping.
that you get persecuted for your views and you go to prison.
Well, if my views are that I should get to insurrect the government because I'm too fucking to read a voter roll, because I'm too fucking to not fall for fake news on Twitter, I hope I go to prison too, okay?
You motherfuckers are literally making shit up as you go along.
Federal territory. It's Washington, D.C. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief. He is the ultimate final call on the deployment of the National Guard to D.C. He can do it without any authorization whatsoever.
I don't even know. I'm just lost after what we're witnessing now.
That was probably the truest thing you've said in this conversation. Yeah.
But listen, I guess. I mean, I would be.
Recently, the White House have put out a January 6th page where it claims that the Democrats are the real insurrectionists. And it goes through a timeline of events that a lot of people contest. Dev and Destiny have agreed to take on all comers on this and to talk about whether or not it was appropriate for the White House to make these updates, whether these updates were accurate or not. And we have a whole host of people to talk about it with us, including Enrique Tario, Gibbs, we got Grid, we got Kung Fu Joe, all sorts of people. We're going to get into it. I guess, yeah, that's the first question for you guys, and we'll just kind of get into it. Was the White House's portrayal of January 6th on their website accurate? Why or why not? Anyone can start. Go ahead.
I guess just on some basic language stuff, can we all agree that Trump never, in any part of that ellipse speech, he never called for peace or told people to be peaceful. He never said any of those words because he used explicitly at least once, and he never explicitly said, "You guys need to be peaceful. You need to go."
Well, like Twitter did stop him from saying "be peaceful." As soon as he said we need to be peaceful, then they deleted his tweet, canceled his account, whatever, and made it impossible for him to actually proclaim, "Please go be peaceful." So that's one thing that I think we can agree happened.
Well, that's cool. So I'm going to ask my question again. So on the speech in the ellipse, the hour speech or whatever, he never told people to be peaceful. That was never a command he gave. That was never a thing that he explicitly said ever. That was just never a thing that was said. But for some reason, people repeat this. I just want to make sure we all agree on that. That at the ellipse speech, he never told people you need to be peaceful. You guys should be peaceful. He never said anything. He didn't say that.
Yeah, you're being really narrow with that. Yep, that's true.
Well, I mean, like afterwards, people went to the Capitol and they, at the very least, rioted, so they weren't peaceful. So yeah, I would like to. I think if we're going to make a White House,
well, you're talking about his rhetoric,
website,
though. You're changing the where we're looking.
Well, no,
You're saying, well, there's one part of the one speech that he gave this one day.
Are you asking if he said specifically the word peaceful?
No. If he told people,
nitpicking one word.
So on the WhiteHouse.gov website, they claim that hold on, let me look for it explicitly. So it says,
hey, just
he stresses the need to fight for the
country. I can cuss here, right? Is there certain words I can't say?
Just no, nothing that would get me demonetized. So no F-slurs, no hard R's, nothing like that. Okay.
Cool.
So he stresses
that you can call retard, fuck, all that shit. So.
Wait, isn't it the hard R?
On the White House website,
I guess
it's
not.
Save America Rallies, their second timestamp. It says he stresses the need to fight for the country through strength and determination, explicitly calling for peaceful protest. I just want to be clear, that never happened. That part is a lie on the side. At the very least, we can agree that that's a lie.
So he never said the words peacefully and patriotically during that speech?
No,
he never told people to go do that. He said that I know you'll go marching peacefully and patriotic or whatever, but he never explicitly said. He never called for. That was never explicitly called for.
That's super nuanced, dude. If he says like peacefully and patriotically, I think that's the key. And I think there was a lot of people, including myself, pissed off that day. And to kind of hit what the question for the host, for 4 years, we've been fed nothing but like bullshit and slop from the Biden administration about what happened on January 6th. Now that January 6th are actually out, we get to say our piece. And I think people get to see both sides of the story, and they get to not make a binary choice. Maybe they agree with me on some things. Maybe they agree with Destiny on other things, or other liberals. And I find it fascinating now that like we're nitpicking words when he's explicitly said that peacefully and patriotically make your way over to the Capitol. And then on top of that,
he didn't say that. So what you just said, you used the word explicitly. I don't know if you know what explicitly means, but that, well, because you can't lie. We just want one fact at a time. Just one fact at a time. Right?
So he goes
You
ahead.
can't see Wick because of my stupid
on top
face.
of that, his tweets got deleted, and you silenced the president of the United States right after that. I don't think it was ever his intention to tell anybody. I mean, I sat through courts through 6 months. I don't think at any point did he think people were going to storm into the Capitol and storm the building or do anything. I think he wanted people to protest outside. And as somebody that,
That's
again,
cool. Okay,
was
so I'm just
planning
going
on
to read
being
I'm going to
there.
read the sentence here, okay? I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. He didn't tell them you need to be peaceful. You need to go and be peaceful. You need to go and not commit. He didn't explicitly say that ever. He just said, "I know you'll be marching over soon."
Well, who cares? Like, what is he?
You can say it's not a big deal. You can say it's not a big deal.
Don't shoot it.
You can say it's not a big deal. That's fine. I just want to be clear.
Can I give the example?
One at a time. Destiny, finish your question. Then Enrique can answer it. And I know Tim wants in too. Is that your name? I'm sorry, Tim.
The full quote is, at the Ellipse, President Trump speaks to hundreds of thousands of supporters, detailing evidence of election fraud and urging the crowd to march to the Capitol to, quote, peacefully and patriotically make their voices heard, end quote. There is no urging the crowd there. He just says he'll know they'll do it. There is no urging. It's about an hour-long speech where he talks about voter fraud. He says we need to fight like hell or we're going to lose our country. He calls everybody in Congress weak. He's here to protest the results of the election. So I just think it's a little bit rich to pretend that there were explicit calls for peace in this. There wasn't. And this was like one thing he said almost at the beginning of the speech. Yeah.
Hey, every time you leave the house, like when you were a kid and you just got your driver's license, does your mom say, "Oh, don't crash"? Like it's retarded to even think that he has to say that every time that he comes out. He said,
maybe he doesn't have to say it every time. No, he doesn't have to say it every time he comes out. But maybe he should say it when he's called a bunch of people to Washington D.C. to protest the results of the election. Maybe that would be a good thing to say when he's kind of gotten everybody riled up, and he's also saying you need to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country. Maybe it would be a good idea to really stress the peaceful part, especially considering what happened afterwards, right?
Like he did. He said, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That's his speech.
Yeah, that is a line that he said, yes. But that's...
Isn't you saying he just didn't say don't be
I'm
peaceful?
saying he didn't explicitly call them to do it. And I would argue there's stronger calls for explicitly for violence when he says, and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. That seems a little bit more of a command. And it's at the end of the speech as opposed to the other thing that was towards the beginning of the speech. It's an hour-long speech. I'm just saying there weren't all these explicit calls for peace. He didn't say, you guys need to remain peaceful. Nothing like that. He just said, I know you'll be marching over there peacefully and patriotically and make your voice heard. That's it. It's not a huge point. You don't lose the whole argument by giving this. I want to make sure we're on the same fact.
Do you think that he knew?
Hold on.
That he knew that he was that the crowd was going to peacefully and patriotically march over there? Like he didn't give a marching order like, "Hey, go storm the Capitol. Hey, go stop the certification election." It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is what he's saying. Like you don't expect the crowd. I didn't expect the crowd to do that. I know a lot of people, a lot of liberals think that I went over there to go stop the certification election. I wasn't going to do that, and I didn't need the president to tell me to be peaceful and patriotically. I was already both of those things.
Well, so you did know that the Capitol was going to be broken into. It had already happened by the time that speech was over, right? The Proud Boys had literally organized to do this. You guys were involved in breaking through all three of the outer barriers, and then finally with Dominic to break into the actual Capitol with the riot shield. So you did know that was going to happen in advance, right? You were in the Capitol the night before and you left because there was a warrant out for your arrest. So yeah.
So I'll ask you, I asked the prosecutors and defense team, what evidence do you have that I knew that was going to happen? Because you said it as an absolute. So what evidence do you have that I thought that was going to happen? Because my messages in court, even given by the prosecution, doesn't show that. It shows that I'm like, holy shit, this is happening. I probably, actually, as a matter of fact, Destiny, you probably found out about
That's what it showed you? My understanding, I
did.
thought that you were convicted for this. Didn't you lose in front of a jury on this?
If you consider a jury that during their questioning.
Yep, I do.
right, and
I
said
do.
that-
So we can, yeah, I do consider that a legitimate jury. Yes, and you were convicted
yeah,
on that
you
case. So
could
I do.
consider
Yes,
it,
yeah, I do. So
but-
okay, so what's the next factor
I mean,
we
I
want to go
hope
over?
one day when you face any assault charges or anything or sexual assault charges that you're convicted of a jury that hates your guts. Then they put me in the jury because the first thing I'm going to do is find you guilty.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to hear from some other people here.
Just to be clear, also real quick. So everything in the indictment, all of your messages about your plans to storm the Capitol, the buildings you want to.
Can you point one message? Just show me one message.
Do you want me to
please.
read down the indictment to have you reject everything
I mean,
that's in there? Is
yes,
that what you
please.
want?
Go ahead. We got all night here.
While he's getting that up,
I don't got nothing to do here, bro.
Yeah, while
so if you want to
he's
look at
getting
the
that up, I wanna-
indictment, go ahead.
yeah, while he's getting that up, I
You
do
had a
want to hear from
6-month
some other
trial,
people
right?
in the crowd. I want
Yeah.
to hear from Tim
Yeah,
here.
tell me
I
about
wanna
my
hear from
6-month
Dev,
trial.
Right,
I'd love
and
for you
we'll
to
get
be a
into there,
professional.
right?
Why is he standing like he's in like in the middle of like a fucking rec center? Like, where the fuck is he?
So go ahead,
Right.
Tim, then Dev, and then we'll get you Kung Fu Joe and Gibbs and Grit. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification. The first thing I was going to do was about the speech because that was the prelude to this. But Destiny, I think he wanted to limit it to specifically saying, for after the fact. But I mean, are we ignoring the tweets that he gave at 2:38 and 3:13? He specifically does use the words peaceful. He says, "Stay peaceful" for the first one and "remain peaceful" or peaceful for the second one. So what is the contention about the word peaceful and when it was used specifically?
Yeah, so he made those tweets when there was already violence
Yeah,
breaking
that's
out. So when he
already
says remain
violence.
peaceful, that's nonsense. And people were begging him to call people to go home. So like people like Ashley Babbitt got killed because he refused to make that call for people to go home because he was hoping that Congress would break down and give in to the desire for him to have the vote switched.
Congress had already been removed at that point, so that's a stupid thing to say. You know better than that.
Did they not
Congress
come
already
back that
adjourned.
night?
Yeah, they came back later that night,
Yeah,
but
so I think the point was
after
to-
all of the
yeah.
rioters have been removed, sir. I mean, that's
Yes,
a dumb
that's
thing
correct.
to say.
Yes, after they removed the
That's a
rioters,
dumb
which
thing
people
for you
wanted
to
to
say.
happen, they came back and they re-adjourned in order to finish the count. Correct. Thank you for doing the logical order of events. So Tario, when you were saying
That's not
things,
the law. Hold
when
on,
you
but that
wait,
doesn't
so
support
Tario,
what
I
you
just want to
said,
see.
Jesse.
I'm just trying to see if these messages are real. So when you posted a message that said "fuck unity, no quarter, raise the black flag," was that a message that you posted in a group chat on November
I
12,
posted it
2020?
on social media, yeah, and I'm 100%. I said that. I celebrated
Okay.
it.
When
if
you
I'm
said
guilty
if
of celebrating
Biden
it,
steals this
then
election,
yes.
the
And
Proud
that was
Boys
in
will be
social
political
media.
prisoners. We won't go quietly. I promise. Is that a thing that you posted?
Yeah, that was in November.
Okay.
That
We
was
need
in
to
November,
remember
yes.
we're at war with a virus, not with each other. No, you need to
Yeah.
remember the American people are at war with you. No Trump, no peace, no quarter, right? These are your messages, right?
When did those tweets happen? Remind me when those tweets happened.
In November of 2020?
In November of 2020 was January 6th an event?
Was January
did it even
6th
get? Did
an
it
event?
even? Did January 6th? The event at January 6th, did that ever get announced before November of 2020? Can you tell me the day that it got announced that was going to be a rally?
I'm just making sure that that so far in the indictment you agree to these. You agree to these things, right?
Unless I'm fucking Nostradamus and I know that some rally's going to happen in the future, do you expect me in November to be tweeting about some shit that I didn't even know was going to happen? An event that I didn't even know was
Did we
going to
know
happen.
that on January? I'm pretty sure the Electoral Count Act literally calls out the date of the certification of the election. So we all knew in advance when the
December 12th.
certification of the
That's a month before I tweeted that. So yeah.
December 12th was when
Are
the
we-
election certification. I thought that was
Go
January
ahead.
6th. My bad.
Automatically creating
No, it's not January 6th. As a matter of fact, you got that wrong.
Mhm.
The certification of Congress, the counting of it happens on December 12th.
Just real quick, I do want to make sure that Tim gets a chance to get in here. He's been
Okay,
trying.
sorry,
Go
Tim.
ahead. No, it's fine. Then Tim.
No,
and
it's
then I
fine.
wanna hear
I-
from,
it-
Dev. Go ahead.
We knew when the certification was going to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean people knew that the rally was going to happen, in which case you still have to create the nexus between the rally and his supposed urging people to riot, which, that didn't actually happen. But I'm just trying to understand, you're dismissing the tweets that happened after 2 o'clock and after 3 o'clock because they happened after the speech, but in the speech he also says peaceful, but you're saying he didn't direct people to be peaceful, he just acknowledged it. Isn't
He
that
should have told
inferred?
people to go home because it had already gotten violent.
But you're unhappy that he didn't say specific words?
No, he should. Well, at that point, people should have gone home. He should have said, "You need to leave." It wasn't peaceful. It was a riot at that point.
If he says
So
to
you wanted him
be peaceful,
the
that
initial contention, my understanding. I'm sorry,
you're,
Grid,
you're
I thought
like
the initial
beyond splitting hairs.
I'm
thought
not
the
beyond
initial
splitting hairs. It's very
contention
easy.
was
So if there's a
that-
riot happening at the Capitol and you have the ability to tell your people to go home, you should probably tell your people to go home.
You wanted him to tell people to go home in the middle of the speech when he says to be peaceful.
You were just talking about his
Because I
tweets
thought
that he
the
made
contention-
hours later at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Which one do you want to talk about?
But I thought you were complaining about the fact that he didn't direct people to be peaceful in the speech when he said, "I know you will be peaceful."
Well, yes, but that's because
I just wanna
I'm
clarify.
just going through the whitehouse.gov J6 site, and I'm going
That's a
through the
stupid thing to
timeline
argue
on the claim thing, right? And the second claim for the Save America rally is President Trump delivers powerful speech. That was just the very first one I was looking at. We can go through the
I
rest of them
don't
after.
even
I was
think
starting with
it's-
that one.
I don't even think it's worth getting in the weeds of what he
that's
said.
fine.
He said peacefully and patriotically. Like we don't need a 10-minute discussion on what those words mean and how he meant it.
Sure.
Well, can I-
he also did say, just to be clear, he said we have to fight like hell or we're going to lose our country, right?
Yep.
How would you describe the
yeah,
events?
I think
How would you
so,
describe the
yeah.
events
Yeah,
that
use the word
unfolded
fight like
over
hell.
the next
If I-
over the next 4 hours? How would you describe the events that unfolded? What did it seem was more happening? That people were fighting like hell because they thought they were going to lose their country, or that they were marching peacefully and patriotically?
Mostly
I think
that.
95% of the
both things are true
people,
at the same
I
time.
believe 95% of the people that were there on J6, all they did was walk in. They didn't touch a fucking cop. They didn't break a window. They didn't do any of that. If you want to talk about the 5%, look, I don't agree. I don't agree with the assaults. I've said this. I said this on January 6th in the evening after seeing it. I said it on national television. I said it on CNN and I said it on Univision. I can't vibe with people assaulting police officers. I think that they should have been arrested. I don't think that the problem was, I still think that they should be pardoned, not for their actions, but because of how
Why do we
justice
care about any of this? I don't
was
know what we're talking about
administered.
now. This doesn't do anything.
Well, no.
we agreed
I
that. So
really
I
don't
heard,
care about
I
you
heard,
talking about.
I heard that you said
the president's words.
95% were peaceful. So that means 5%
95% were peaceful.
Okay, so then 5,000, 10,000 people were rioting.
All right, I'm kind of bored with this one. Yeah. This one gets. I'm curious. Let's see, straight shooter.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this latest edition of Straight Shooter with Stephen A. Coming at you, as I love to do, at least several times a week. On Wednesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m., I come at you from SiriusXM Police
Myself
Radio
back
Channel
over here.
124, and I will most certainly be doing that with you tomorrow night. As I've told you on several occasions over the last few weeks, I try to come on the air every Monday and Friday, but this Monday I had to do Monday Night Football for ESPN, and so that's why I'm doing something today. And it's apropos because I have to address stuff that pretty much nobody wants me to address. They want me to leave it alone because their attitude is you just give fodder to folks are looking for clicks and stuff like that. I'm not going to classify the people I'm talking about as individuals just searching for clicks. They're accomplished individuals in our profession, in my profession, as well as in politics. And because of that, I'm going to show them a level of respect they certainly haven't showed me. But I'm certainly going to speak on the issues that they've addressed. I'm talking about Joy Reid, formerly of MSNBC. I'm talking about Don Lemon, formerly of CNN. I'm talking about Representative Jasmine Crockett, who for some reason, once again, went on social media to denigrate me. There's no other way to put it. So let me get started with a couple of things first. Joy Reid decides to put out some videos of me talking about keeping receipts because she wanted to put forth a compilation of me talking about Black people and comparing that to me talking to white people like Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro and people like that. I'm not getting into that. That's nonsense. You can clip and edit any way you want to and contextualize things in your own way. I'm not falling for that. But what I would like to do is address the incentive and the motivation that appears behind the attacks that they have aimed in my direction. First order of business is Joy Reid. Joy Reid was on a podcast. I believe it's my former colleague Kerry Champion's podcast entitled Naked. And listen or look at what Joy Reid had to say about me, and I'll read it to you. You got $100 million for a show with half my ratings at my worst. They're paying you, meaning ESPN, because you are willing to say the nasty things about Black people that they want to say. You're willing to take their denigration of Black women and put it in the mouth of a Negro, end quote.
Sheesh.
Before I address what Joy Reid, what I just read to you, came out of her mouth on that podcast, ladies and gentlemen, this woman is of the mindset that somehow, some way she's been insulted by me because when she got fired by MSNBC, I had the temerity, the unmitigated gall to say this. I've invited Joy Reid on this show, and I'm looking forward to her accepting my invitation so we can talk. Let me tell you how I feel about Joy Reid first. I respect the hell out of this woman. She is highly intelligent.
My problem with Stephen A. Smith is every time he goes into dialogue and every time he says, first of all, I respect the hell out of so-and-so, that means that he's about to insult their intelligence. Now, I think because I don't think Stephen A. understands that you are not in sports anymore. You've branched out to politics and you're speaking on things, and your words matter. So if somebody's hearing your words, like you say to Jasmine Crockett, if she's being too extra, people are going to deem that as you're trying to say that they're being too black or they're being too woke. And coming from another black man, I can understand why that's kind of annoying, kind of harmful.
Very, very knowledgeable, very passionate. She has a lot to say. She is more than a conscientious observer, and she is fearless in calling out what she believes to be inequities, unfairness, and the like anywhere, but especially as it pertains to the black community, and obviously as it pertains to leftists, to folks on the left. But when we want to bring up race as the cause for her being gone, I don't think we're serving ourselves well. Michael Steele is going to be there as well as a replacement, along with Alicia. And you got to remember Menendez is right there as well. It's hard to make the race argument when her replacements are reported to be.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Stephen A. Smith. Go ahead, bro.
3 individuals that already have a weekend show on the network, and they're going to be inserted in the network.
It's just like it's stupid. They fire one Negro so they can put palatable ones in their place. Why is he not able to read between the lines? He sounds like conservatives who hate to talk about race because it makes them uncomfortable. But what he said there doesn't help his claim. It actually supports Joy Reid. You fell for that shit.
And I'm just reading from the reports here. Okay, I have not spoken to Joy Reid. I don't know. I've had the pleasure of meeting her on a couple of occasions. I certainly respect her. And I'm not.
And that's nothing against Mike, and that's nothing against Steele or anybody else. I'm just saying, like, you can't, if we can't say that it's not race related because they put another black person in its place. If they were to fire Joy Reid and then put Ben Carson in their place, would you not say it's a race thing? Would you not say it's because she was too woke? Would you not say because she talked about black issues a little too much for MSNBC and they just couldn't take the heat?
Here to castigate her in any way, but we do have to talk about the business in a very, very honest and fair fashion. Joy Reid was incredibly outspoken against the Trump administration, as has always been the case. Since election, her ratings have dropped by 47%. 47%. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't keep your job when stuff like that happens. You just don't. The business doesn't allow for that to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the only time I've ever spoken about Joy Reid. That right before my interview with Lindsay Davis for ABC News Live the other day. That right there is apparently what she found to be disrespectful. That right there is what she appears to deduce as being denigrating and insulting to black women. What do you want me to say? Joy Reid, beyond a conscientious observer, somebody who unapologetically fights on behalf of us as a community every chance she gets. Whether we agree or disagree with tactics from time to time, verbiage from time to time, etc., there is no doubt where her loyalty and her conscience lies. All I was pointing out was, you've gone after Trump, albeit legitimately in your mind and that of many, many others who watched your show. Did you take into account the fact that he might win and what that might ultimately do? Because you know how he is and you know he's coming. And sure enough, a couple of months later, it ended up happening. So when it ended up happening, I was making the point because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the business. Not only that, I've had a show that was canceled in 2007. So I was simply making the point that in our business, particularly when you're black, regardless of the reasons behind why a precipitous fall off might occur, you kind of know what's going to happen. That's it. And because of that, she went on the air weeks ago and said what she said about me. And when I elaborated on what she said and gave my response to Lindsay Davis, all of a sudden she's out with some videos or whatever showing receipts, whatever. Say what you want. It doesn't matter because I understand from a contextual standpoint, I did nothing wrong to you. And the venom and the viciousness that you choose to show, cool, no problem, I can take it. It's all right, keep it coming. Do what you got to do, if that's how you feel. My name is spelled with a PH, not a V. And even though you'll get your clicks and you'll get your notoriety and people in the audience will gravitate to you, well, guess what? They're going to gravitate to me too. And oh, by the way, you said that the ratings was more than mine. Again, context matters. You do understand I'm on at 10 in the morning. And they just finished reading the article about First Take having record ratings in the year 2025. Same year your show was canceled. You have more ratings, but prime time, which is when you were on, comes with a different set of responsibilities. I did not wish for your show to get canceled. I have news for you, Joy Reid. I still wish you were on the air. Because regardless of what bad cynics and critics and others want to say you did, I also know that you did a lot of good. Which is what I said when I talked about you, back then. I talked about the business, but I also talked about the quality of work that you brought to the airwaves. I did that. That's what I did. But that seems to be ignored. Denigrating, disrespecting black women. I'll get into that in a second. But obviously, we don't want to stop with you because Don Lemon, who was at CNN for 17 years, he had something to say about me as well. Listen to this.
Stephen A. Smith has just been a disappointment. I try not to criticize, especially black men or just black people in general. But Stephen A. Smith goes off and he talks about shit that he has no idea about. He has talked shit about me, but no facts. He has no facts. He just gets on these like white boy, right-wing podcasts or on his own show and just goes off about black people and things that for which he has no clue.
Yeah.
And he thinks because he's doing it like this, that people are going to listen to him. What's wrong with you? So I'm like, what am I watching? It's just shocking to me, this sort of cozying up to white people. And it's got to be for the money. But if I became a black conservative, I would be rich, like a gazillionaire. Or if I just went on and started like bashing black people just to bash them, And it seems that's become his stock and trade, to make excuses for white people and to cozy up to people like Megyn Kelly. He's one of those black people who white people think black people like, but we don't. And Stephen A. Smith does not represent us. Black people don't want to hear from him, networks. We don't like him.
That's not true.
I just want to make sure I understand this clearly. Don Lemon speaks for black people more than me. Don Lemon speaks for black people.
Man, why is this so fucking in my face?
Really? I won't go there. I won't even go there. I'm just not going to do it.
Why not?
I want y'all to understand as an audience.
You want to...
Let me say this about Don Lemon. My sister Carmen loves this man. Loves herself some Don Lemon. So much so to the point that not only did she watch him every night, she'd call us half the time to make sure we were watching him most of the night. For somebody that don't know much, and who is he, and he doesn't represent us, and blah, 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 you could, if you did your research, notice that I was a guest on Don Lemon's show on several occasions in the past. I never asked to come on. He asked me to come on. And I tried to go whenever asked because me, like I'm sure many others felt, you see a black host on television, you want to help. Don Lemon said that I talked shit about him. Ladies and gentlemen, evidently, this right here is Don Lemon's definition of shit. Listen up. See, I did some research, okay? And here is the reality of the situation. When you look at Don Lemon tonight, that's what his show was called, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when he followed up Chris Cuomo. His ratings were his best during the Trump years in office. But even at that time, never averaged more than 1.1 million viewers, according to the reports. Shortly after Trump left office in January of 2021, his ratings steadily declined. And it wasn't long before CNN's primetime ratings overall were down over 50%.
Not gonna lie, I'm fucking with my settings right now, so my picture might move.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where we all need to grow up. In the business that we're in, I'm in it. I've been in it for decades. You're not keeping your job when those kind of numbers are on the books. You're not doing it. Because advertisers and sponsors who want to support your product are going to go to where the ratings are. When I was watching one of the 3 shows at 10 o'clock at night on news, it was his show I was watching, not the other 2. But evidently, the numbers say I was in a minority. And again, no disrespect. I like Don. I like his work. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm not here to excoriate him. I'm only talking facts. And Don would appreciate this because Don is a fact-based person.
Once again, I like when he says no disrespect and then goes on to disrespect them. I guess we have to define what disrespect is because I feel like it's subjective. I think Don Lemon, you can say that what you're giving is constructive criticism, while the person who's you're giving the criticism to can also at the same time consider it as disrespectful. These are why people should have conversations before they have opinions. And if you don't choose not to have like a backdoor conversation or a call or text or whatever, or invite them onto your show to talk about it, then people are left with the assumptions they're going to take it the way they're taking it. I mean, that's nobody's fault but yours, Stephen A. That's nobody's fault. That's nobody's fault but your own.
That's what he swears to be. I see no reason to denigrate him in any way. But if Don was doing a story on Stephen A., which he has, and the reports were out there, Don would be reading from the reports just like I'm reading now. Everybody knows this. He would be reading them. And he would be saying, this is Stephen A's numbers compared to such and such numbers and such numbers. And if I was in last place, he would say he's in last place. That's his reality. That's the definition of disrespect.
That is that is definitely disrespect.
Some
Shit, that's disrespect, bro. Like, I don't understand.
happens involving you in the news.
I mean, I get it.
You're the headline. You're the story. I talk about it, and I read the facts that were put in publications. And because of that, I'm just catering to white folks and talking about folks and all of this other stuff. I say that, I played that clip because Don Lemon specifically said I was talking shit about him. I've never talked shit about you. I've had you on this show. I showed you nothing but respect when you were here. I showed you nothing but respect when I came onto your shows. I've never spoken against you, ever, ever. This pattern that's taking place that I'm witnessing transpire before my very eyes right now. I'm not blind. I see what's going on. And it's one thing. It's very, very simple to disagree with me. It's very, very simple to say that I'm wrong. It's very, very simple to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Cool. Black people don't like me. That's a very, very, very personal shot.
That's a crazy statement. I ain't gonna hold you.
What if I got personal about Don Lemon?
You would probably be.
You want to talk about black people and your relationship with black people compared to others and who likes other people, who black people like and who they don't. We all got receipts. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you. It's unnecessary. You have your YouTube show. Joy's doing her thing with you and without you. I'm wishing y'all success. But what y'all are doing right now is vicious. I can take it. I'm going to continue to take it. It's spelled with a PH, not a V. Feel free. A in the middle of the initial. Go ahead, knock yourself out. I can take it. But it don't make you right. And it damn sure don't make you righteous. The reality of the situation is that you're basically sitting up there and pulling a Laura Ingram.
Okay.
With LeBron, shut up and dribble.
Okay. All right, buddy.
You're telling me to shut up and stick to sports.
Put the fries in the bag.
It's the fact that I'm touching on stuff that's essentially news and what have you. It's got y'all up in a tizzy.
Laura Ingram didn't tell LeBron James to shut up and dribble because LeBron James didn't know what he was doing on the basketball court. Laura Ingram is just a fucking racist. That's what that is. Don't compare this to Lauren Ingram telling LeBron James to fucking shut up and dribble. Don Lemon and Joy Reid are criticizing you because they don't believe that you understand the shit that comes out of your mouth. And the numerous upon numerous times I've seen him on News Nation, Stephen A. doesn't really know what he's talking about. So comparing that to with the Laura Ingram and LeBron shit is just dumb.
Joy, you brought up Ben Shapiro. I've met the man once. I interviewed him twice. I've met Megyn Kelly once. I've interviewed her twice. You know what we did? We sat down and we talked about our disagreements. I would have afforded that to Don had he called. Not now. I would have afforded that to Joy if she had called. Not now. Because it's gotten personal. And I'm not going to get personal. I'm just not going to waste my time. Black people don't like me. I'm from Hollis, Queens, bro. I'm from the streets of New York City. I go to the streets of America everywhere, all over this country. I'm inside and outside arenas. I'm inside and outside local businesses and stuff like that. I'm the ambassador for HBCU Week. In concert with Ashley Christopher and other people, I've helped generate over 12,000 scholarships in excess of $150 million for Black students.
That's true.
I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I ain't just down with a fraternity. That's a brotherhood. All of them are my boys.
I'm sorry. I'm not in a fraternity, so when I randomly see people doing shit like that, or like this, or however you see it in the camera, it just cracks me up. I don't know.
I was raised
I'm
by
not.
5 black women, Joy. I have 9 nieces. I have 2 daughters. Everybody black. I still go home to Hollis. On the business side, ESPN takes our show, First Take, to HBCUs. Packed gymnasiums wherever we go. Black people don't like me?
That was a crazy claim. That's a crazy claim. I wouldn't, if out of everything you can say about Stephen A. Smith, I wouldn't say that black people don't like him. Stephen A. Smith has done a lot for the black community. Just when it comes to politics, I disagree with him vehemently, and it could be deemed disappointing on his takes. But I follow Stephen A. Smith, still one of my favorite black people as far as when it comes to talking on the microphone. I still believe that he has the most powerful black voices in now, I guess, politics and sports today. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that black people don't like them. I think they were just trying to hit you in the gut because you hit them in the gut.
Positive. Walt Disney and HBCUs, when we start going on tours every year. We've been to Delaware State. We've been to Bethune-Cookman. We've been to Norfolk State. We've been to Winston-Salem State. We've been to Savannah State. Oh, yeah, we're going to Texas Southern next month because of what Beyonce did in terms of her contribution to the band. We don't stop. And I said we. Because in concert with the very organization that I work for that you accused me of being paid by just to talk about white, just to talk nastiest things about black people. What about what I celebrate? I cover the world of sports. Joy.
Here's where we collide. It's like you got to stick to what are you talking about? Like, are you going to address the shit that they say, or are you going to keep repeating your accolades? Like just because the reason people saying you're saying the most despicable things about black, you have to understand that there are people who believe that ESPN is full of racists. If anything, Republican affiliated. That's what the heads, right? Not everybody there, but the heads. So you have to understand and see it from a perspective of individuals who believe that you're being a mouthpiece because you are highly paid, deserving every bit of that coin, in my opinion, every bit of it. But you are literally speaking talking points that not anybody outside of racist ass Fox News hosts would say, specifically because they know that you can say what they can't. And that's just normal. That's what they do all the time. They would put a black person in a position. He literally talked about just the same reason you would say, okay, well, it can't be about race when they fired Joy Reid because they put Michael Steele in place of Joy Reid. So how's it about race if they put another black man? Michael Steele is a fucking Republican. Do you see where we're going here? MSNBC, I don't think is ever going to be dominated by the Republican Party, but we have to at least admit that MSNBC is eventually going to be compromised by the time that Donald Trump leaves. You think Morning Joe is going to be the only fucking talk show that might remotely be, stand its ground and have a backbone on MSNBC eventually? I think that's the problem. It's not even a firing. If it was about the ratings, it's fine. But what's Stephen Colbert about the ratings? Are you going to say the same thing about Stephen Colbert? Are you going to say the same thing about Jimmy Kimmel getting suspended? Because if Stephen Colbert's numbers, if we're talking about late night show or prime time or whatever, because he speaks out against the president or the Republican Party or just speaks his fucking truth, why don't you also say that about Stephen Colbert?
If a black athlete is competing against a black athlete, and I'm talking about what a black athlete did positive and how a black athlete may have suffered negatively, I'm denigrating a black person, or am I covering sports? You're competing. Somebody wins, somebody
It's not
loses.
the same. It's not the same.
You mentioned Colin Kaepernick. I supported Colin Kaepernick from day one. I just said your strategy's not going.
Right there, and I'm sorry I keep pausing this video, but I have to say, the Colin Kaepernick situation was probably Stephen A's best moment, especially when it came to the Black Lives Matter. Stephen A literally dedicated his show, the most popular show in sports, First Take, about 2 hours, I think. He dedicated those whole 2 hours to talking about black issues in sports. He literally talked about it, even when what Max Kellerman, we keep talking about the white coalition, white men for coalition, whatever that long ass fucking name was. Even when Max Kellerman kept saying the same thing. Listen, at the end of the day, I believe that Stephen A. Smith has done great things for the black community, but this confrontation between him, Don Lemon, Joy Reid, and Jasmine Crockett should stay in the confines of this octagon that all four of them are now currently in. I don't think that it's fair to say black people don't fuck with Stephen A. Smith. That's not right. That's not correct. I disagree, because when the chips were down and black people and violence against black people were on an all high in 2020, Stephen A. Smith did dedicate First Take to talk about black issues, and he took a lot of heat for that, and is a lot of hits on his ratings because people were bitching about why you're bringing race into politics, or politics into sports, or race, whatever. So I give Stephen A. credit for that. I will never forget it. I will never forget that. And that's one of the reasons I'll never give up on Stephen. I might hate the fucking shit that he says lately, but I'm not going to deny what the man's done for us. I'm not going to do that.
Going to work.
Oh, shit. Go ahead, man.
Because if you go the route that you're going, you will never be back in the NFL. You seen him play? Have you seen him in an NFL uniform? Was I not right? I looked at Don Lemon, I looked at Joy Reid, and what you bring to the table. And it was valuable, and it was important, and we needed you on the air. So why continuously go after Trump to the point where all of your eggs are in one basket?
And then there it is. And then that's another thing that I dislike about Stephen A. Smith here. Is every single time somebody speaks up against Trump and then something happens, you're always asking, why are you talking against Donald Trump? I want people to do so. If that means that you get fired from CNN, MSNBC, NBC, Straight Shooter, if you have to get fired from that, I'll support you. I'll subscribe. I'll fucking call in. I'll fucking donate. If it means you're going to keep speaking your truth, I don't want you to be muzzled. I would never listen to a black man or a black woman on the air and in a positive manner while they're being muzzled willingly. With consent? No, absolutely not. If I know you have a lot of shit to say, you better fucking speak. You better fucking talk. I don't want to hear that you cucked out or you bitched out because your fucking bosses said, oh my God, Donald Trump is talking about us on Truth Social. We need to calm it down. No, fuck that. Never that. Don't do that. Come on, Stephen. He's got to stop saying that shit. Let people fight. If they want to go against, if they want to run the fade with Donald Trump and there's consequences to it, let there be consequences to it.
And in the event that he wins the election, somehow, some way it can get in the way of your progress. I wasn't selling out, I was looking out. Trying to point out where the potholes and the minefields will lie. Why? Because I've been there. I've been canceled. I've been fired. I've been taken off the air. And I was saying, this is the business. Why are we telling people something different? If you don't do X, Y, and Z, that does not mean you were not a great host. It does not mean that your content wasn't substantive. It does not mean it wasn't stuff that we needed to hear. What it meant was, in the end, it's going to be a marathon that you would lose because you went for the sprint. It's a personal opinion. But nothing denigrating or insulting to you all. But you would come at me and try to create a narrative questioning my blackness. Do you really think I'm fazed by that?
I hate when people do that shit.
I ain't a black man, just a black man. I'm a brother. I'm with the brothers and sisters all the time. That's how I live my life. That's what's around me, contrary to what you want to believe. Everywhere I go, black people, because I'm one of them. My brothers and sisters. And whether you like it or not, you don't get to eradicate and exile people. No, you don't get to do that. Contrary to what you want to believe. Now, to touch real quick, to remind people of my politics. Let me say one thing before I elaborate on it more extensively before we end this show. I'm not a Democrat, meaning a progressive Democrat. I am not a Republican, never have been. Nor am I down for MAGA, because I don't like some of the stuff either extremes do. I am a moderate who leans left. I am a fiscal conservative, because I can't stand paying high taxes in California, New Jersey, New York. And I'm a social liberal. I am a supporter, pro-choice, LGBTQ plus community. My only issue is if somebody is transgender and trying to transition from a male to a female and competing with females, because I think that puts females at an extreme disadvantage. That's it. That and things involving kids that don't require parental consent. Because I'm of the belief you can ask a kid to go to the gas station. If you do it against the wishes or against the idea of informing their parents, you're wrong. There's no such thing as things for a child without parental consent. That's it. Period. I'm pro-choice. I'm about looking out for the impoverished and disenfranchised. The elderly matters to me more so than the rest of us, to be honest with you, kids and the elderly. But that's neither here nor there, because we know that's not what this is about. This is about y'all wanting me to parrot what y'all want me to say. And God forbid I think for myself. And I go on a case-by-case basis and I say, yo, this ain't gonna flow. That's not right. It's a problem.
Stephen, this is what happens when you throw your hat into the cage.
Because I'm of the mindset that when you do that, you don't get to, meaning a politician, you don't get to get held accountable for the things that you do. You want our vote? Earn it. Why should it be? You signed civil rights legislation in the law with Lyndon B. Johnson in 64, and you signed voting rights in 65, and because of that, you've dominated our vote for 80 plus years. I know the answer to some people would be, well, look at what the Republicans do. I'm saying forget all of that for a second. I understand that. I get that. But what about you who's swearing up and down, meaning the Democratic Party? You deserve our vote. Flatter me. I want to hear what you're offering. I want to hear what you're thinking and why. I want to hear why your policy ideas are better than theirs for our community, whether it's the year 2000, 2010, 2020, 2025. I'm asking. In this case, rhetorically. I'm saying that's always been my mentality. I've never been any different politically, ever. But now suddenly, I have this platform. And all of a sudden, my check has become an issue. And speaking of my check, can I ask a rhetorical question right now? Why is everybody always bringing up me on ESPN when I own this YouTube channel? And I own this show on SiriusXM. How come y'all don't bring up SiriusXM? I don't say any of this stuff on ESPN. I don't bring any of my political stuff to ESPN. I'm there to do sports. Everything else is different. But at ESPN, I do a sports show, which, by the way, come April will be #1 for 14 consecutive years, by the way. See, in my time slot, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Damn.
But that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make is, what's the problem? Why can't y'all bring up Stephen A. on SiriusXM?
Come on.
Stephen A. on Straight Shooter. Why do you keep bringing up ESPN? Because you know it's owned by Disney. Because you're literally trying to go about the business of having me canceled. All I want to say is, I don't have animus and vitriol towards Joy Reid or Don Lemon. Y'all saw what I said. The reason I played you those clips is because it's the only time I've ever talked about them. I wouldn't do that. I don't want you canceled. I don't want you guys without a show. I don't want you guys off the air. I want you talking. I want you looking out for our community. Just because you do it your way and I do it differently, don't make you better or worse. Neither does it me. But the point is, I wouldn't do to you what you're trying to do to me. You're trying to create a narrative and build it so it would literally be validated what Don Lemon said. Hey, Stephen A., black people don't like you. You speak for all black people. You want to walk out in the streets of America with me and find out? I walk out there every day. I can walk anywhere in this country because I'm a brother who loves my brothers and sisters, regardless of what you think. I grew up arguing with my sisters all the damn time. I didn't know that arguments turned into disrespect because you had a different opinion. I didn't know that it translated to hating your own. I thought we as black people butted heads all the time, arguing about our ideas, our thoughts, and everything like that. That's what I thought. But we want to pretend that it's something different now because on a public platform, we're supposed to give a different impression. Let's keep it a buck.
I get this feeling sometimes that there's this growing right-wing faction in Israel that is like every day they wake up and they open their curtains and they look outside and they like pray that somehow all the Palestinians just disappeared. They're just gone. They just up to heaven or into the Mediterranean, or they're just gone. And like, thank God we don't have to worry about that anymore.
What's happening in the West Bank is a type of apartheid. These acts of violence.
Welcome back. We want to turn now to the latest fallout amid the unrest in Iran. Today, the Treasury Department announcing new sanctions against what it called the architects of their crackdown, saying that the administration stands with the Iranian people's calls for freedom and justice. A U.S.-based human rights activist news agency estimates more than 2,600 people have been killed in the weeks-long protests, and more than 19,000 others have been arrested. Yesterday, the president said he'd been informed that the killings had suddenly stopped, although he was vague about where he got this information. Today, the White House saying the regime halted the execution of several hundred protesters.
The president received a message, as he revealed to all of you and the whole world yesterday, that the killing and the executions will stop. And the president understands today that 800 executions that were scheduled and supposed to take place yesterday were halted. And so the president and his team are closely monitoring this situation, and all options remain on the table.
During a brief phone call this morning, I asked the president about whether he decided to take action in Iran. The president telling me, quote, "I'm not going to tell you that," but added, "We saved a lot of lives yesterday." Joining me now is Mike Froman, president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I do want to dive in and start with Iran. Yesterday, the president appearing to back down from possible military action. But one of the president's staunchest allies, Senator Lindsey Graham, posting this on social media, quote, "Every indication that I've seen says the Iranian regime's killing of protesters is still very much in full swing. The death toll is mounting by the hour, hoping that help is on the way." What do you think an effective response would look like at this point?
Well, first of all, we should note that we don't have a lot of good direct information about what's going on the ground there. There's been a total blackout. The news, there are very few journalists on the ground. The internet is down. And so we're all sort of looking for more accurate information. It's possible that the regime canceled some scheduled public hangings, but there could well be killings still going on the street of protesters, as Senator Graham said. Look, I think in terms of the response, the president has said we're locked and loaded and help is on its way. That's pretty far out there on a limb. Now, if the quid pro quo is no public executions and therefore I won't do anything.
Why does our administration talk like this? We're locked and loaded. Like these sound like a bunch of kids. This is serious, people.
Then he can say he's achieved victory. If he wants
We're locked and
something more to
loaded.
support the protesters, though, in their efforts, then there's got to be something more. He's announced tariffs against countries that are trading with Iran, but there's a lot of uncertainty about how those tariffs are going to be implemented. There's efforts to potentially put Starlink and other capacity back up and running. And the real question is, on the military side, what can be done? And we know that there's been consideration of various options. Right now, there's no carrier strike group in the region, but one is heading there from the Indo-Pacific, and evidently the White House is considering various military options and other non-kinetic options, cyber and other options. But it could be about attacking the intelligence agencies, the Revolutionary Guard, the munitions. It could be attacking command and control. It's really about whether you want to deter Iranian action or whether you want to prevent them from being able to crack down on the protesters.
I can be needed.
Still being developed.
Well, to that point, a lot of people, a lot of lawmakers on Capitol Hill, foreign policy experts have made the argument what happened in Venezuela is so vastly different, and the government of Venezuela and the country of Venezuela, than Iran. In other words, regime change in Iran is infinitely more complicated than it was in Venezuela, and Venezuela was obviously remarkably complicated.
But each country is very different. And what you have going, though, on Iran is a widespread protest, which you did not have going on in Venezuela at the time. So this protest, which started with the bazaar in Tehran, which is significant because that's where the protests in 1979 began, supporting the Islamic Revolution. It spread to other cities. It's now spread to ethnic minority communities as well. It's driven in part by economics and how bad the economy is doing. 50% inflation, 70% inflation for food. The currency has declined by 80% against the dollar. They're running out of water in Tehran. The government has been incompetent in managing, basic affairs of state there. You have that on top of aspirations of the Iranian people and pushback against the oppression at a time when Iran is in a particularly weak position, and where its investment in proxies and in nuclear and missile programs over the years seems to have taken a lot of resources away from the domestic economy, and people are really chafing under that.
I do want to ask you about another foreign issue that's in focus right now, the president's threats to take Greenland by military force if necessary, he says. We know that top officials from Denmark and Greenland were meeting with the Secretary of State, other officials here yesterday. What do you make of where things stand? Do you see a potential off-ramp, particularly given the fact that Europe is saying this would be the end of NATO, and alarm bells have gone off, quite frankly?
Kirsten, we took a Council on Foreign Relations fact-finding mission to Greenland back in August and came back with the distinct impression that we don't need to buy it, we don't need to invade it, that all we need to do is ask. That the Greenlanders and the Danes are very happy to work with us to expand our military presence in Greenland. We used to have 17 bases. Now we have one. And hopefully we can find ways of working with NATO to strengthen Arctic security, including on Greenland, rather than dividing NATO by threatening military action.
All right, Mike Furman, thank you so much for being here to cover a range of topics. Hope to have you back soon. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker in Washington. We are following breaking news amid intensifying clashes in Minnesota as the president now weighs a major escalation, threatening to deploy the U.S. military against the protesters. The president today saying he will invoke an 18th century law called the Insurrection Act if Minnesota's leaders don't put a stop to the protests. That law authorizes presidents to deploy military combat troops domestically to suppress rebellion or domestic violence. Trump administration officials today defending the president's threat after a top Justice Department official accused state and local leaders of, quote, terrorism.
The Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history.
You know, I spoke to the president this morning about several different things, but we did discuss that. And that certainly is within the president's constitutional authority to use that if he thinks he needs to keep people safe.
The White House threats come after another night of intensifying clashes in Minneapolis, including a federal agent shooting a man in the leg during an operation to arrest him. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying that agent feared for his safety after he was attacked by 2 other men armed with, quote, weapons and shovels and brooms while the officer was trying to make an arrest. Officers on the scene fired flashbangs and sprayed chemical agents at protesters. Minnesota's leaders speaking out last night, calling the situation on the ground chaotic.
2,000 to 3,000 armed agents of the federal government have been deployed to Minnesota.
You know what would fix this whole entire situation in Minnesota? Just fucking leave. Just leave. ICE, get the fuck out of Minnesota. They don't want you there. You gotta go differently. You gotta try a different way. They don't want ICE there. They don't want thugs there. They don't want Bane mercenaries there. Get them the fuck out of there. That's how you solve a problem. That's how you make sure there's not another Renee Good. That's how you do that. Anything other than that, you're just asking for more violence, and you're going to ask for more deaths. So, if you guys decide to invoke the Insurrection Act and think that it's going to stop something, no. This administration can do that. There's nothing wrong with getting ICE out the fuck out of Minnesota right now. But whatever.
Armed, masked, undertrained ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbors of color live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools, they're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have 2 governmental entities that are literally fighting one another.
Today, Minnesota's governor responding to the president's threat to send in military troops, telling him, quote, let's turn the temperature down. Stop this campaign of retribution. This is not who we are. Governor Walz also making an appeal to Minnesotans to not, quote, fan the flames of chaos. Joining me now is NBC News correspondent Shaq Brewster in St. Paul, NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley, and NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube. Thanks to all of you for starting us off. Shaq, you have been there on the ground right in the middle of these protests for days now. Walk us through what you're seeing and hearing today.
Look, there's still a lot of frustration. There's still a lot of anger. There's a sentiment that the shooting that we even saw last night is just reinforcing the will for people to come out in what is the frigid, cold temperatures. I'll let you just take a look at the scene that we have here outside of the federal building. This has become somewhat of an ICE headquarters here in St. Paul, though pretty close to Minneapolis. You see every once in a while federal agents will go inside and you'll hear the crowd jeer at them, make it known that they don't. And, you know, I was at the site where we saw a lot of that chaos last night where the shooting happened, and I talked to some people. I saw, I saw investigators going through looking for more evidence from the state, but I saw community members coming out and cleaning up, picking up some of those canisters that were lodged, the tear gas, the pepper spray. I want you to listen to a conversation I had with one of them about the mood and feeling here on the ground in Minneapolis.
I think a lot of people have described it or asked if it's feeling chaotic here, and I disagree. I think that what they're doing is chaotic, what ICE agents are doing is chaotic, but I feel like people are organized and brave and courageous, and I feel like we're winning against them, especially when you see people coming out.
All right, Shaq, thank you so much for your reporting from the ground there. Let me turn to Courtney and Julia. Let me start with you and this threat by the president to use and invoke the Insurrection Act. Walk us inside your conversations today. What are administration officials telling you about that threat?
Yeah, so why this is important is because this would give the president the authority to send troops to Minnesota to be involved, or I mean, frankly, anywhere that he wanted to use them, but in this case, Minnesota. And they would be involved potentially in law enforcement functions. So we've been talking about the National Guard who've been sent to various cities around the country. If they are on federal duty, so activated federally, they cannot engage in any kind of law enforcement acts. If they're state National Guard, they can. DC is the outlier. I won't even get into that because that's just confusing. But when it comes to Minnesota, if he were to send federal troops, they could be involved in law enforcement. There are people, the concern is that that would be perceived as he is sending troops against the American people in the streets. So, but we do know that this is something the president has discussed in prior instances as well.
Well, so to follow up on that point, Courtney, he has talked about this before. How seriously are people taking this specific threat?
Anytime the president talks about the possibility of something, you have to take it seriously. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I mean, how many conversations have we had about the president talking about Maduro, and then look, they went in and carried it out? I mean, how many times has he threatened to send the National Guard, and then he has sent them? So we have to take it seriously if the president is discussing it. And also, if he's talking about it publicly, that means that he is having conversations with his senior staff behind the scenes. We know that there are people in his inner circle who are very much in favor of using the Insurrection Act in certain cases.
And Court, just quickly before I go to Julia, walk us through what the Insurrection Act actually looks like.
So it gives him the authority to send